Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another stream for EUROBOWL 2024 Greece. This time it's not going to be kind of a national team interview, but a little bit of a special one. The tournament is now over. The winner has been decided. So congratulations to the French team for winning the tournament, and hope everybody had fun. But on that note, we are here with the Finnish team captain, who has been here before. Hopefully, we'll have a good time this time as well.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I'm still trying to survive after the long trip to Athens, but it's getting better by the day.
All right. All right. We have multiple people in the chat there. We have Juicy Beer. We have Yopotsuki, one of the Finnish team members. We have Pitpad saying hello as well and asking a very pertinent question: how many of the Finnish delegation has been struck down with some random plague after the tournament?
I think it's not that random, but I think I've heard about 4 or 5 guys getting COVID. So yeah, it's one of those things nowadays, I guess, that when you see a lot of people, you'll get COVID, or some people at least. I've been lucky, and I've survived it so far, at least.
Right. Pitpat, I've been talking to him a little bit. I don't think is suffering COVID exactly, but he has had some stomach troubles, and I suspected some kind of food poisoning, but that probably would have passed by this point already.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna, just because this is the first time that we're doing this, we're gonna give everybody a little bit of a heads up. We're gonna, like, the first round, because we've already sort of covered that in the initial interview, like thoughts on that. Like, we're gonna take a look at the kind of the results and sort of go like, well, was there anything surprising about the first round, etc., etc. But after that, we start delving a little deeper into each round, like your general thoughts on like how the matchups went, as in like which were favorable and which were unfavorable you thought, and then like how did it actually turn out. And then after each round has been concluded, we're gonna have our final thoughts on the like tournament, of like anything that went splendidly, anything that went like poorly, like from a team perspective, things that you learned, and final thoughts, etc. But
sounds great.
With that in mind, we'll be moving on to the EuroBowl first round. So Finland got to face off against one of the newcomer teams, Cyprus.
Yeah, and as I kind of suspected, the coaches were a bit newer to very competitive Blood Bowl, and it definitely showed in the results. I was the only one who dropped any points, so we got 7 wins and a draw. And I think my my draw was a silly mistake on my part, so it could have been even better. So um, you can't really count anyone out in Blood Bowl. They might surprise you, but at this point, I think you usually know the opponents at least on some level. And so yeah, they were newer, and I think our team did really well against them. There was nothing surprising about that round. I haven't talked too much about the first round just because I was hearing after a few rounds, people were starting to say, "Okay, I'm doing good. I'm doing good." I was like, "Okay, that kind of it just went better and better the longer the round went." So, to be honest, I haven't analyzed that round as much as the others just because of that fact.
Yeah. It is like Blood Bowl is definitely one of those games that, while like bringing in a little bit of an off meta like team build, or like being sort of a dark horse, can be an asset. Like, it is one of those things that, if you're unfamiliar with the meta of like the tournament that you're going to be attending, a lot of the times you're probably going to be worse off. Like and especially for like newer players and like newer national teams, that could certainly have been an issue.
Hmm.
And especially, and obviously, like Blood Bowl is also one of those games where like veterancy does count for a lot. Like just like experience as a coach.
Yeah, that shows definitely, yeah.
All right.
And especially at this level when everyone's roster, everyone's play style is so polished.
Mm,
Of course, there's mistakes. Every game has its mistakes,
hmm
but you cannot do too many of them.
Yeah. And always like as always, like dice are dice. Sometimes
Yeah,
the
exactly.
statistically probable thing doesn't happen, and then you have to scramble. But even there,
Mm.
a veteran coach generally has a like like not only in the sense of like keeping their nerve when things don't go their way, but also
Mhm.
in the sense of like being able to like quickly alter whatever plan they had in mind to sort of account for the new situation on the field.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So round. Hold on. That was. So this is the round two draw. So we had a very convincing win for Finland against Cyprus in round one, which meant that in round two, uh, I believe you guys were at the top table.
Indeed. Yeah. With 7 wins and a draw, we were
Yeah.
we were rolling in points.
Yeah, and you were facing off against the defending champions, Denmark. Triple Skull was here as one of the people that I managed to interview prior to the tournament. So
Yep.
shout out to him. So certainly was very confident in the Danish team's ability to be able to defend their title. So
Hmm.
so let's just take a look at like at just generally the so we have like Brutapatia, the Skaven team
Hmm.
going up against Amazon's Hovering. We have Rat
Yeah.
Ogre Shambling Undead going against Skaven. We have Evil Smoothies Dwarves going against the Triple Skull Vampire. We have
Hmm.
Nama and Dark Elf versus Morstad and Chaos Renegades.
Right.
Uh, Duho Wood Elf versus Seabraw, Dark Elves, Yupatsuki, Vampire versus Jagera Lizardman,
Hmm.
Dex Machine Lizardman versus Shambling Undead for Mr. Cappuccino, and then you yourself as Amazons versus Maturto or. Out of these sort of like just my personal thoughts on the matter, like out of these sort of matchups, I imagine that you were pretty happy about the Dark Elves versus Chaos Renegades, as well as like the
Yeah.
Vampires versus Lizardmen. Like I feel that those were the sort of probable like I would be the most happy about those.
Definitely. I think. But there were a couple of tough ones. For example, I think Skaven against undead is
Mm,
always difficult, especially with undead doesn't have much. If I remember correctly, that he doesn't have wrestle and
I'll take a
or
look.
tackle. So yeah, that can be a
Yep.
tough match.
Rat
Yeah,
Ogre had no tackle nor
no
wrestle,
wrestle.
just
Yeah,
full block and guard. Yeah.
yeah. So against a competent Skaven, that's gonna be a tough matchup. Yeah, and against Triple Skull's vampires,
Mm,
our Evil Smoothie had a difficult game ahead of him.
mm,
Um, but yeah, but at least we had those Lizardmen. Lizardmen. I think Lizardmen like Sex Machine with Lizardman
mm,
Undead, very vanilla matchup.
mm,
I think Amazons against like our first up Bruto against Hovering it's kind of a coin flip.
yep.
They probably it's either's game,
Yep.
but 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 I don't understand the Chaos Renegades on their team. I totally I get it. How you're supposed to play it,
Mm,
but on this level, I kind of feel that you're giving the edge to the opponent,
mm,
especially with so many Skaven elves, vampires.
mm,
Why make it more difficult for yourself and not pick tier 2, tier 3 team instead of Chaos Renegades. That's one of those.
Mm.
When I saw the Danish roster, I did not understand it.
In the interview with Triple Skull, he did mention that Morstad was a like a fairly last minute replacement as a coach to a Danish coach, I believe. Name was Miss Sweden or something like that. Who,
All right.
yeah. So and he felt the most comfortable as a chaos as playing as Chaos Renegade, and that was essentially the reasoning for it. And like Triple Skull,
Okay. Right.
what he was a little like he was a like obviously you can't ever be like fully confident. I feel in a Chaos Renegade pick, but he did say that like he can at least sort of think of it as a like a coin flip in that like sometimes like Chaos Renegades like they're one of those teams that when they pop off, they pop off big. Like they can get good results like on when they actually function as a team. And then
Right.
other
Right.
times, it's going to be a massive loss for them. But Triple Skull,
Right.
like it was certainly a necessity, like for him. But I do think that he had at least accepted the fact that that was going to
Okay.
be the
Yeah.
case.
Okay. Well, yeah, yeah. But
Mm,
if you put it that way, then I kind of understand.
yeah.
I just feel like there could have been other rosters that they could have chosen. But if
Mm,
Morstead is more comfortable with Renegades, then
mm,
I would let him pick that over something that he doesn't
yeah.
enjoy or feel comfortable with.
Yeah. Um. But yeah, the how did, by the way, like just as something that we kind of glossed over a little bit, like the Wood Elf versus Dark Elf matchup. Um. And we have Pitpat in the chat saying Miss Sweden is a bit of a Chaos Renegades expert as well.
He is,
So
yeah.
so yeah, could have still been Chaos Renegades, maybe with a different roster, or I don't remember whether the roster was locked in. I think it might have already been.
Okay, yeah.
But
Miss
yeah.
Sweden is one of those very veteran guys
Mm.
who's played. He played Underworld before they were cool.
Yeah. But yeah, the Wood Elf versus Dark Elf matchup. How
Hmm.
did that go?
I'll I'll have to check the result.
Mm,
But I think. Oh wait, it's not that one. It's unfortunately I don't remember the matches outright without
mm.
checking them.
No worries. I am like it is one of those where like you just see that there's the coin flip at the very top with Skaven versus Amazon. And
Yeah.
Skaven for Denmark has the advantage. Vampires for Denmark has the advantage. Dark Elves have the advantage versus Chaos Renegades for Finland. And then Vampires has the advantage versus Lizardmen. Lizardmen versus Undead is a very much an equal matchup, and then it comes down to either the Wood Elves versus Dark Elves or the Amazon versus Orc.
Yeah. So to be honest, unfortunately, I don't have that many details about the J-Host
Mm,
Zebra game.
mm,
The result was a draw,
mm,
and I can see out of the game that they outcast our Wood Elves 2-4.
mm.
So it's one of those. It doesn't. If you're playing Wood Elves with 11 players and you lose four,
Yeah.
it sounds very uncomfortable.
No.
But I think as a matchup, I think I would give a small edge to the Wood Elves just because they have more tools to work with.
No.
They have their and they have the well, Tree Man probably is not a probably doesn't do much in that matchup.
Mm, mm.
But I would just because of tackle and strip ball, I think Wood Elves would have that the most of the time.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I,
And
I, I think I think like it depends on like they Wood Elves are just they have more consistency in scoring as well as like ruining somebody else's drive versus the Dark Elves have more like they have more sustainability and
mm,
they have more capacity to deal damage, but especially against like sort of low AV enemies such as the Wood Elf. But Yeah, I wouldn't say that like neither team has necessarily a massive
Yeah,
but yeah.
and that yeah, and in that round we as a like as many of our games were it was very tight
Mm,
that I cannot say that it was even though we managed to clinch the win
mm,
against Denmark.
mm,
It was down to the last turns, and
mm,
it's one of those as I kind of said in my earlier interview that every matchup is winnable for us.
mm,
I feel like, and this was one of those that I think showed it to at least us
mm,
that okay, we can win these really good, very solid players, and we lost. We lost with Radogr lost his game to Tank, and a Tank is one of those. He's played for. I'm not totally sure how long he has played, but I think he went 6-0 in Malta,
mm,
so he won all his games. So he has to be really good with Skaven,
yeah.
and and so Radogr lost that 0-2, but most of our games were draws. And Nama,
Mm,
like our Dark Elf, he
mm,
had a really hot first day.
mm, mm,
Um, so he took it 2-0 against the Renegades,
mm,
and I had in my matchup against their Orc. I'm running the dirty player roster,
mm,
and
mm,
I got in the first half. I think I got two removals and their Apo out, so that especially against I won the toss and
mm,
I went on offense
mm, mm,
and I just started playing very aggressively. I put the ball back and started pounding on his team, and I got results, and that kind of carried me through the game. Just because, well, he did some damage back to me, but it's different when I'm losing my 50k
yeah,
Amazon lineman when he's losing his big ones and blitzers
yeah, yeah.
and stuff like that. So I got the win after that.
And that was the deciding match then.
Yeah, I think me and Nama got the win for us in
Yeah,
the first round. But as we can see, there's a lot of draws.
yeah.
So it's one of those. I think people are still playing pretty conservatively,
Mm,
and yeah.
yeah. I think definitely the like these sort of early wins do matter a lot in the tournament.
Hmm.
And people are gonna, I feel like the first, at least first two, maybe even first three rounds, people are generally going to be more conservative versus from fourth round onward. People are gonna be more desperate of like maybe they had like an unfortunate loss somewhere around the way, and now they need to start making up for the.
Yeah,
But
and,
yeah.
and I probably other countries that saw us in table one after the second and even the third round.
Mm,
Like after the second round, they probably were thinking about okay, they got the easy win on Cyprus.
mm,
Even though it's true, but we got to play really good players because of that, and I kind of it kind of showed that we could compete at that level.
mm,
It's never easy. I think this tournament kind of showed that I would say that French, like the French are on a different level in that it's a for many teams it's a win to get a draw out of like
mm,
the
mm,
French team, but just because of the time that they put in and the individuals that they have on their team, it's I think we just don't have people playing that much Blood Bowl, to
mm,
be
mm,
honest.
mm. All right.
And yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, looking at the sort of standings after round two, we have five teams that have won both of their matches here.
yeah,
Finland, USA, France, Spain, and Poland. So
I have to say that that felt good to see Finland on top.
yeah, I
After all these years, it felt good.
yeah. No, I mean I am certainly biased and in agreeing with you here, but I have made my biases public. Nobody should be surprised that I'm biased towards the Finn. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was certainly cheering you guys on. Um, but yeah, I don't think like aside from Finland, like these four, the U.S. is a bit of at least like it's more than slightly an unknown quantity to me for as a team. Like Poland and Spain are definitely considered in the sort of high tier of teams, and
Yeah.
France was considered like by many the sort of favorites to win the entire tournament. And
Yeah.
the spoilers, which we already spoiled it, I guess, they did end up doing that. So out of these five teams, like Finland seems probably the most surprising to see, like in the top five. Did it this?
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. I think everyone was looking at the results, they probably were amazed that we were on
Mm,
top. But and I think at the same time they would think, okay, they got this, they
yeah.
got Cyprus on round two,
Yeah.
round one, and so. But yeah,
Yeah. Um, Looking at the other sort of at the other end of it, like we have Australia, Bulgaria, Hungary, England, as the teams that were on no wins at that point or even
yeah.
draws, and Bulgaria and Australia were both newcomers, I believe. To um, was it Bulgaria? It was sorry, Cyprus, Lithuania, Australia, Canada, and a
Mm,
15. I think it is Bulgaria who was the last of the five new national teams to.
I
Um,
think so. Yeah,
yeah. So and then but
I have to
England.
say that that is the England part being after two rounds being there. It's one of those things that when you've been to EuroBowl for years,
Mm,
we've been beaten by England for many times.
mm,
I totally understand that they've done done like a generational shift. That's the wrong word, but they've renewed their team a lot.
mm, mm,
Um, I have to think that they've thought about it for a long time.
mm,
And the guys, even though they're new to EuroBowl, I
mm,
think they must be really good,
mm.
at least on local level.
Yeah.
So it's but so because I knew that know and I know their captain and he's good. I we were really surprised that England was so low.
Yeah. And yeah, from what I talked to the English captain here in his interview, the like he certainly like it was brought up that that England has sort of slightly moved away from its more traditional, what many had apparently called like boring way of playing Blood Bowl in Eurobowl, especially of like just getting all draws and then just the one win that they need to win the win the round, as well
Hmm.
as like he did also mention that like they have had like newer blood coming in this, at least in this team, like compared to they used to
Mm,
have a very solid core of, I believe he said, 5 or 6 players who were always like almost in Team England.
right.
So there is definitely that. But yeah, considering that it like England's prestigious sort of background in Blood Bowl, as well as like generally England, I believe, like along with France and Italy, are considered like the top three national teams. Um, so it is certainly like was very surprising seeing them without a win after 2 rounds.
Yeah, and I think those are the kinds of surprises that this Euro Bowl brought
Mm,
us. And it was a different kind of Euro Bowl this time, I think.
mm,
It's hard to say like what was the end result, why it was so different. But well, we can continue and maybe come
mm,
back to that
yeah.
subject. Yeah.
Oh. All right. So moving on to the round three draw, still at the top table. Uh,
Right.
and as many probably already guessed, Finland versus Team USA.
Hmm.
So we have Dark Elves versus Amazon. We have Wood
Hmm.
Elves versus Norse. We have Vampires versus Shambling Undead. Lizardman versus Dark Elf. Amazon versus Skaven. Skaven versus Necromantic. Dwarf versus Orc. And Shambling Undead versus Chaos Dwarf. Um,
Hmm.
Out of these matchups, I don't think any of them comes across to me as a sort of like maybe there are slight advantages here and there, but like none of these sort of stand out as the like this should definitely go this way. Like if I was to say like one matchup, I would say that Rat Ogres, Shambling Undead probably have the best of the Chaos Dwarves, but
Right.
that is just my sort of uh look at this. Maybe Vampire versus Shambling Undead.
Yeah, that's a difficult matchup every time, and
Hmm.
I think dwarves have a tough time against orcs, but
Hmm.
that's especially if the orcs don't lose anyone.
Yeah.
That's it's hard to go forward like attack on the
Hmm.
strength 4 wall with dwarves. But yeah,
Oh, how did?
it's one of the rounds that I came to this round
Hmm.
checking these coaches.
Hmm.
I felt good coming into this round,
Hmm.
and I felt this was winnable. And yeah, that was that. And of course, after 2 wins, we were feeling kind of invincible. So I was definitely going to this match like going for the win. Yeah.
Mm-mm. Um. So, I mean, I'm loath to say what went wrong. But
Um, I think it's 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 hard to say what went wrong. For example, I lost my game. It
mm,
was my game was against a really good coach.
mm, mm,
I think the online community knows Soul better than the tabletop community. But he was a very solid Skaven coach.
mm,
I felt I he got to choose it, that he defends first. I got his rat ogre out, um, but he still managed to do the one turner,
mm,
and so it was a tough matchup when he managed to do the Daka against me. Um, I tried my best, but just it wasn't enough. He was a really good coach, and I didn't get removals. So in that situation, it's a tough one. I
yeah.
managed to knock out the Rat Ogre from the one turner, but I think that was the most only major thing that I got in that matchup.
Oh. And
But
when you're playing into into the dirty player angle or the fouling angle with Amazons like that, especially against a team as sort of that can be as squishy as Skaven, like just
right.
that is not gonna be enough.
And it's one of those things that when you really get the feeling of how to play with Amazons against Skaven,
Mm,
you have to realize that okay, you're gonna win the fighting game every time.
mm,
Um, because if you don't get damage, you'll just lose because they will one turn. They will they probably will get their score on their attack.
mm,
So you just need to do some damage, and unfortunately, I did not.
yeah.
But our other games, as I said, Nama was having a very hot day on the first day, and he managed to get this 2-0 win
Mm,
against their
Amazons.
against their Amazons.
Yeah.
And again, Jeho. Well, Jeho is a very solid coach, and got the win. Got the win, but then the good results started stopped there. So our vampire lost, our lizardmen lost. Bruto didn't got only a draw,
Mm,
and Evil Smoothie, as I said, it's I think it's difficult to play against orcs.
yeah.
Orcs with dwarves, and he lost as well. And I think the Rat Ogre turned his tournament on the turn like on the third round. I think from that on, he went back to his old winning self.
Mm,
And but yeah, Chaos Dwarfs is one of those. I don't know if it's just the U.S. players that I've met, but I've seen a lot of Chaos Dwarfs from the U.S.
mm,
I think this was the last. They probably won't play the new roster anymore, but I really don't like the Chaos Dwarfs in this meta.
mm, mm.
It's doable, but again, why pick an inferior team when there's better around?
Yeah, it's one of those where I just look at the Chaos Dwarf and going like, and could have had regular dwarf instead, and that would probably be better.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting to see like here that the vampires managed to lose against the undead, considering that that's probably a fairly favorable matchup for the vampires. Do you have any insights as to what happened there?
Um, I don't know that much about that game.
Mm,
I think it's one of those teams that you might if you do some small mistakes here and there, you get your like bloodlust in the wrong place that
mm,
might cost you the game.
mm,
And I think like Yopa was doing pretty good like through the tournament, and he got a good result out of it. But I think this was one of those games that got out of hand,
mm,
and it's just more difficult to come out of it with vampires if it starts going badly.
mm. Yeah, they are definitely one of those teams that were like, if the failures start sort of piling up at a critical moment, they're not very good at sort of recovering from that, just because of the nature of their, like, what their failure, like the bloodlust can mean.
Mm.
And if Yopotsuki was at least earlier in the chat, so if he has any particular thoughts on, and here he comes. I tried for a quick win, which ended in failure, and the opponent having a 5+ pass in the end for a win.
Oh yeah, yeah, oh, yeah, that happened in the
Yeah,
end.
I mean, if yeah, it's, I can understand going for the quick win, certainly. Like, but and then, not much you can do if an unlikely as a 5+ pass for the win happens, then then that's just dice, I suppose.
But in the end, 5+ is one of those things that is many a times it's just too good of a
Yeah,
roll to give your opponent,
yeah,
especially with a reroll.
yeah.
But yeah, I did that later on against another matchups, and
Hmm.
it ended up costing me as well.
All right. Moving on. So at the end of round 3, uh, Finland, unfortunately, with the loss, has dropped out of the top 5 teams. We have Team USA, who is the only team to win all 3 games, and
Mhm.
then we have France, Switzerland, Spain, and Sweden, coming up at 5 points, and
Mhm.
then Denmark, Finland, Malta, Lithuania, Portugal, Poland, Greece. So top 5: US, France, Switzerland, Spain, Sweden. I don't think anyone feels particularly surprised. Again, like the US being an unknown quantity, but like,
Mhm.
especially if they've been around like in the in the World Cup, like, I feel that maybe people are not so surprised that the US is in the top 5 as well. But like all of the European teams here, I've heard a lot of good things about from a
Yeah.
skill level.
Yeah, especially I think of those the most surprising. Like I think the Swiss and Sweden are the a bit surprising. I would
Mm,
say Swiss has a really good uh, like coaches. They have really good. Let's say this is out like on the top of my head, but I think they have really good four coaches.
mm, mm, mm.
But the others aren't on the same level. It's a difficult job to get eight super solid coaches, and I
Yeah.
think France is the only one that really gets to that level, and
Mm,
I think that shows here. I think it's the same with Sweden that yeah, even though they have really good coaches, but I think I think for us as well, like they have their people who are struggling a bit more than their best.
mm. Yeah. Um. So round draw, no, like round 4 draw. And this is on the second day, I believe, right?
Yeah, this is the
Yeah.
fourth game,
So
first game on the second day.
there was a questionable amount of sleep had between the first and the second day.
Yeah.
And
We
Mm,
might or might not have had a pool party on the hotel roof on the Saturday evening.
mm.
But I
And
tried to show some leadership and go to bed before it went too late, and I think that worked.
fair, fair enough. Um, we need not discuss any alcohol consumption, because everyone knows that at least for Finnish players, except for maybe Bear, the consumption of alcohol will make them better at Blood Bowl, generally speaking.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So, uh, but yeah, facing off at round 4
Hmm.
against Malta, and there was a lot, many commented on the Maltese team, because like last time I believe they ended up being dead last, if I like
Hmm.
if I've heard correctly, and but that was mostly because a lot of the sort of core of the team was in the tournament organizing and could not actually play for the team, and now they did not have that imposition on them.
Yeah, yeah. They're a good bunch of players. I like if you would have to like tier the teams, I
Mm,
wouldn't put them in the highest tiers, like highest tiered teams, but they have as many of us. They
mm,
have very few very solid coaches, and they're one of those teams that can win most of the matches.
mm,
But after the loss against USA, we came to this matchup, especially after we've won against Denmark.
mm,
Our mindset was okay. This is totally winnable. This is in the bag.
mm.
We're gonna win this, and we're gonna start our day right with the win on against Malta.
I
There.
yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but when you mentioned like tiers of teams, I immediately just like thought about, well, that means that France is essentially underworld while swarming is still around, which might not be the most how would you call it, flattering of comparisons to the French team,
Yeah,
but yeah.
yeah, yeah. They're a bunch of snotty rats. Yeah, that's what I'm implying here. Yeah.
All right,
No, they're
right,
a great bunch of guys.
yeah. Um, So, looking at these matchups, Dark Elf versus Wood Elf once again. Wood Elf versus Skaven. That seems like a pretty big scoring. Skaven versus Lizardmen. Trampling Undead versus Amazon. Amazon versus Vampire. Vampire versus Necromantic Horror. Lizardman versus Dark Elf. Dark Dwarf versus Trembling Undead.
Mhm.
Um, I genuinely can't really think of like I feel that this is one of the only times where I'm gonna go like the Skaven versus Lizardman. That I'm gonna go that like, wow, that might actually be not so great of a matchup for the Skaven. In that Lizardman, if they can like they can put the hurt on and certainly win the brawl war with the Saurus, and
Mhm.
then you have the Skinks who can actually get to the gutter runners, and like one assist means that they're two dying that. So
Yeah, and it's a hard to say how this goes just beforehand
mm,
because especially with their Lizardman coach Nightsword, he's a young kid, but like if you just pick his record shows that he's a decent coach.
mm,
So but in the end, I was expecting Bruto to pull this out,
mm,
because he's a good coach, and I probably expected, because Nightsword is a bit younger,
mm,
that we would have the edge in that one. But just because one dodge or one set of good dice for the Skaven just wins the match outright. You have to play really solid with Lizardman for 16 turns,
mm,
and just because of that, if he doesn't get the dice for the damage, I think this is I really like Skaven more here,
mm,
but it's hard to say. Well, I think just looking at the casualty results, I think he got the damage in, and that helps a bit.
So, how did the matchups end up going overall then?
Well, that was a sad matchup for Nama at least because
Mm,
it was his first loss. He was winning just winning until this round.
mm,
So he lost 2-0 against their Wood Elf.
mm,
It's a tough matchup, but and I have to say that Nama is a really mostly conservative coach, and I think this is one of those hard matchups to play. You have to play really elfy,
mm,
but elfy to win against Wood Elves,
mm, mm,
and I think I think here just the opponent got his dice that he needed.
mm,
I think this started. I think Nama played 3 games against Wood Elves
mm,
um, on the second day, and he was not happy about it. So,
mm,
but yeah, um, but then again, Jeho got his game and won pretty comfortably. Comfortably, Bruto. Even though I was expecting a win
mm,
here, I think it was one of those games that was very tense until the last turn, and Bruto got some bullshit 4+4+ draw out of the game.
mm,
So I think Nightsword was doing really good, and I think just that he got 5 casualties to Bruto's 1
mm.
shows that it was probably pretty uncomfortable for this Skaven. Um, Personally, I would put Amazon's a bit ahead, like a bit favored against Undead,
Yeah,
just because.
especially undead that have no tackle or wrestle.
Yeah, exactly, and because it's just one of those. Because I think the Undead they might have 1 tackle,
Mm,
probably will has one. I haven't checked his roster,
mm,
but
mm.
probably has one, but still. Um, I was actually, so sorry. Yeah, but yeah, because Red Ogre
Yeah,
doesn't.
yeah, yeah. He has
Because
four.
if
He has
yeah,
4 blocks on the Googles, and yeah.
yeah, but if you turn that around, the blocks do help against the punching against like Amazons. But still, I would put that favored for Amazons. But
Mm,
Red Ogre is a solid coach, and he managed to get the win out of that.
mm,
My games, there's really nothing good to say about. He's a nice guy that I was playing. Have to put it out there. I wasn't feeling myself that game,
mm,
and I did a huge mistake on the one turner.
mm,
And in his one turner, and actually he I set up for round um round 8
mm,
defense.
mm,
No, no, I mean on one turner defense. I was thinking, okay, this is the second half.
mm,
Set up my guys totally wrong, and he got the one turner.
mm,
He made a mistake as well, but he managed to get the dice anyway, and so he got the one turner and the win. It didn't matter in the end because he got his strip ball into my lines because I had to risk it a bit.
mm,
And even though he had to dodge in with I think 5+ and get a 1 die and stuff like that, but that happens
mm,
against vampires sometimes.
mm,
It was tough matchup until he got the strip in and I lost my ball and I just lost it after that. But uh, that was one of those games that I'm really happy that my teammates pulled it out,
mm,
even though I did not. So Yopo got a solid win on Janino, which Janino is one of those um, like everyone knows him. He's a really good guy, really good coach,
mm,
and really happy that Yopo got the win. And Sex Machine got a draw, and Evil Smoothie got a
mm,
draw against him, which secured us the win. But
mm,
it could have been even better for us, I think. Um, I would, even though I like the Maltese guys and I know they're good players, I would just put our team a bit favored against them.
mm,
Um, I would have wanted to see a bit better result here. For example, my game should have been at least a draw,
Mm.
but it wasn't. But it was a tough matchup. But I'm really happy that we got the win here.
Looking at the table after round 4, Switzerland takes the lead.
Yeah.
France is close behind,
Hmm.
and then we have Denmark, USA, Finland as the rest of the top 5, with Poland and Portugal trailing at also at 6 points here. And Sweden at 5, Germany at 5, Spain also at 5. Spain being one of the sort of I feel teams that are considered close to like the highest tier of team, shall we say, like one of the big
Yeah.
3. Um, so, but then we also see the rise of England, like making it to 4 points at this point. So, they started making good on what they lost in the first day.
Yeah, and that was expected for them to get higher up. I don't remember their points in the end, but well, we can
Yeah,
come back
will.
to England. But I think in this round, the biggest surprise for me, at least, is seeing Italy
Mm.
in
It's
23rd.
it's
It,
this is the
it's
like
mind blowing.
yeah, 4 rounds in, and Italy won 1 round.
Yeah,
Uh,
uh, it's one of those teams that is such a like bedrock
mm,
good teams of Blood Bowl,
mm,
and I haven't I don't know their players or their coaches that much, so I haven't talked about it
mm,
with them. So that I would love to know what happened with Team Italy here.
mm, mm. All right. Moving on. The penultimate round. We have round 5, Finland versus Poland,
Right.
and so Wood Elf versus Imperial Nobility.
Yep.
Interesting matchup in and of itself. Pitpad just commented in the chat. Looked like the normal players on the team for Italy, so it's not even the case that like the core is missing, unable to
Yeah.
make it.
They had their Dion Lords. They had their Darth, whatever his name is. The veterans were there, and that's why I'm so surprised.
But yeah, Wood Elf versus Imperial Nobility. Only Imperial Nobility in the tournament.
Yep.
But very interesting matchup on the theoretical side of it, because Imperial Nobility is going to outbash the Wood Elves, and they're very defensive in orientation with all the stand firm and fend. But then Wood Elves are all very offensive in orientation with you know being Wood Elves, like the war dancers, catchers. So very
Yep.
like on that level, more than a interesting matchup already. Dark Elf versus Wood Elf. Poor Nama. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Gambling Undead versus Amazon. Not great for the Undead, I think.
Yeah,
Brutapatia.
again, yeah.
Yeah. Skaven versus Chaos Dwarf. Um, Probably like Chaos Dwarf is probably better than regular Dwarf in Skaven specifically, just because of the Bull Centaur. But
Mhm.
um,
But I
Vampire versus
yeah.
Skaven can be very explosive. Lizardman versus Undead. Once again, I believe this is the second time Sex Machine takes on Undead.
Mhm.
Evil Smoothie gets Underworld Denizens. That should be a treat for the dwarf player. Um,
Exactly, yeah.
and then Amazon versus Lizardman.
Yeah.
So,
Um, well, I think the biggest surprise for me at least was our top 3 tables.
hmm,
J-Ho got a draw against the Imperial Nobility.
hmm,
I get that a good like nobility player can make them work, but
hmm,
I just feel it's one of those teams that even our community has one or two guys who like them, but it's just I think they don't get the bang out of their buck that they
hmm,
they want. So,
hmm,
but it was a draw, and it's one of those things that Jeho. I think Jeho is one of those coaches that rarely gets a draw that um Like he'll get the draw out of it. I think in that game, we kind of our system of like controlling how the team matchup is going. I think it kind of backfired on us
Okay.
because many of the teams in this tournament had some sort of way of communicating how they're doing, so that
Mm.
the coach or captain can do some um, like play moves during the game. Say like, okay, we're winning by one or winning by
Yeah.
two.
Yeah.
Just play safe.
Yeah.
It's and I think Jeho saw that at before, like he was the one who was fastest in his game,
Mm.
and he saw like, okay, everyone's doing good. We were at that point. I think we were winning by 2 games,
Mm.
and he went for the safe draw,
Mm.
and he got the draw. He
Mm.
was he had a full team after first half,
Mm.
and he got his touchdown on turn 8.
Oh.
Nobili didn't get to do any damage.
Mm.
And in that situation, went for the safe draw.
Mm. Mm.
And it's one of those things. He's a very aggressive player when given the right opportunity,
Mm.
and I think he should have gone for the win.
Mm.
And that's what he feels. And it's one of those things that if you would like with the when you think about it now, of course he would have should have gone for the win in that situation,
Mm.
but
Mm.
he did not, and he got the draw because he thought that it was enough for us,
Yeah.
and that might have cost us the game. But I can't blame Jeho on any level. He kind of carried our team. Is all the time like really solid for us. So if he did a solid draw for us, it's one of those things that I have to we have to be happy with it.
Mm. Mm.
But then again, Dark Nama lost with his Dark Elves against Wood Elf. It's a tough matchup, and I don't I think that game ended on turn 5. Like on the last 2 turns, the Wood Elf got the ball out of a very solid Dark Elf cage and
Mm.
did some Wood Elf magic and managed to get the win. And that happened to us on that level. We were winning until turn 15,
Mm.
14. We had 3 games that turned on us.
Mm.
Our Nama's Dark Elves lost the game. I think Red Ogres, was it maybe Red Ogres lost on the last turn, or was it someone else? But until the last turns, we were on top, and then
Mm.
it just crumbled.
Mm.
And it did not feel it. We were pretty devastated again after that match because of the way we lost.
Mm.
And yeah, we got on our bottom tables. We got the pretty solid wins. I got a few removals against Lizardmen.
Mm.
He got some removals on me, but I got the better. I think it's more important to get few Saurus out
Yeah.
than if I lose someone.
Yep.
And we're Evil Smoothie was just enjoying himself, killing all the snots.
Mm.
And it's then what happened with Sex? Oh yeah, Sex Machine lost as well. I think yeah, the Sex Machine what lost against their undead. They
Mm.
had, was it 0-2 really? I thought that game turned on its head just in the last turn. I thought it was more tighter than that, but actually no. Wait, there's the home TDs there. Yeah, it was 1-2. Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, it turned on. I think he went for the win
Mm.
in a solid in a situation where you probably would go for the draw normally, and
Mm.
he managed to pull it out. And
Mm.
that was one of the games that turned on us on in the last turns,
Yeah.
and it was really felt really bad, especially for the ones were doing really good
Mm.
in the tournament. I was just happy that I got a win for the team, but sometimes it just doesn't help, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It can. It's definitely like those sorts of like that sort of a loss, especially, can be very tough for the team morale of like the Like and like conversely, if you managed to like pull out that sort of a win, so it must have been probably pretty good for Team Poland to sort of be able to pull that off. But on the
Yeah.
flip side, probably pretty devastating for our team.
Yeah, and but it's I think we had few tight wins against
Mm,
other teams.
mm,
So this is kind of the flip side. Even though we can win everyone on the right day with the right dice,
mm, mm,
and I think even I think this was against Poland. We were pretty evenly matched,
mm,
and even though it felt bad, I can't be too sour about the fact that we lost because it was a tight loss.
mm,
And I think in even in the loss we showed that it wasn't easy for Poland,
mm, mm.
and I think it's one of those things that next time we're gonna be even more hungry against Poland. So
Mm.
yeah,
Righting the wrong.
exactly. Yeah.
All right. So after round 5, France has taken the lead. Um, taken the lead. USA and Poland not far behind at 8-8.
Hmm.
Switzerland, Sweden as as the last of the top 5. Germany crawling up to match Sweden and Switzerland at 7. Uh, Juicy Beer says, to be fair, it was probably an issue of no Kemry in the roster. Um,
That's one of those inside jokes in our Finnish community that as a captain, we have few guys who really enjoy playing
mm,
enjoy playing Camry or Tomb Kings.
mm,
And pretty early on, I said that okay, no one's getting on the team with Camry.
mm.
Of course, I said to them, okay, if you want to use Camry, like come to the EuroBowl with Camry,
mm,
come to our tournaments and beat us.
mm-hmm.
If you can do that, then I'll let you in. But it's one of those they always like to throw it against me, but I probably will keep on saying that no one's gonna get on the EuroBowl team with Camry as
Mm,
long as they don't come and win the tournaments with Tomb.
yeah.
I don't. I just personally don't like the team at all on
Mm-hmm.
this level.
Mm.
Even though it's getting better in the meta, but still.
Yeah. Maybe I'll have to try more for Hungary.
Yeah.
Maybe. With your best efforts, anything could be possible. Um, but yeah, just looking at this, one of the things that kind of pops out at me, like just looking at this, Finland at -13 net casualties taken. That's like,
Yep.
-6 for Poland is like, all right, I think that's still dealable. At -13 and -14 for Malta, like, okay, there's Austria at -27, which is bonkers, but like,
Yeah.
it is just one of those things that like those casts can like definitely change the game. Um, but yeah, just
Yeah, and we don't have the squishiest team
yeah,
on, and I think it's one of those things that shows that sometimes you just get cast or
yeah,
you get removals. Of course, good players get more removals, or at least get less removals against them. But
yeah,
still, if you compare to ours, for example, against Poland, it's a huge difference.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, then you on the flip side, USA at like +11 casualties cost, so that's
I think that's not too like I like uncalled for. They have Chaos Dwarves, they
yeah,
have
yeah,
Orcs, Necro, I think Norse as well.
yeah, yeah, that's
So but still, it's a lot. It's a lot on this level.
all right. Look, going into the final draw,
Yeah.
Sweden versus Finland. This is the most important matchup in the tournament,
Yeah.
like bar none. So how the hell? Just sorry, spoilers for anyone, but how the hell did we not win this?
Yeah. I think the biggest problem against Sweden is that we did not have enough big enough Bluetooth speaker to play Den Glidare in before the matchup. I think that's the biggest mistake that we had in the tournament.
Mm.
Did not come prepared for this matchup,
Mm-hmm.
and it's totally on me. Um, Next time, we're gonna make sure that everyone knows that we're playing Sweden, and that's just gonna give us the win. Um, but yeah, I think this is the matchup that I felt that we should have won.
Mm.
No offense to the Swedes, and I know the guys are really good. So, but still, I like in the last years, I think we've been a bit better than Sweden. Um, but just looking at the table here,
Mm.
I do not. I said the Meliscus there on that player. He's a tough guy. Tough guy. Like the fact that he was the last player on their team,
Mm.
I don't understand how that's even possible.
Mm.
Um, just because he's such a solid coach, and our players we hate to play. He's a lovely guy, but we hate to play against him.
Yeah.
And of course Nama got the dark elves again.
Yeah. Yeah. Once again.
Wood elves again. I mean.
Pitpad comments, Captain, 5 losses.
It's one of those we call it the captain's curse.
Mm-hmm.
Like the stress of being a captain always makes you do worse. And at for example, our captain, Maliscus in Wales, he had
Mm-hmm.
5 losses. Oh, that's devastating
Yeah.
from Maliscus. But I think that showed kind of on Kaju. He did not do that well this tournament.
Mm.
I was hoping to do better in this tournament. I ended up with 2-2-2,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I was hoping to at least go positive.
Mm.
And this is one of those matches that will gnaw at me. Um,
Yeah.
I should have secured the win for us, but I let the orc score after 3-turn touchdown, which cost me the game.
I mean,
But
yeah. I mean, yeah. I specifically, out of all of the people on the Swedish team, I wanted in for the pain to lose. Mostly mostly because of the fact that like he is one of the regulars that I play. What's it called? Terraforming Mars with. Every time he's in the game, he hits me with something really really annoying, and I hate him for it. He needs to get a little humbled. So I was hoping for that.
right,
But yeah, the just looking at
I
these sort of like as matchups,
mhm.
I I I would guess that like Red Ogres match up against the be like the best matchup Finnish. Like just because of the fact that the like Norse can break, and I think
Mhm.
Shambling Undead are pretty good at breaking, especially a
I think,
Norse team that doesn't have a Yeti in it because he
but
can't
at this
really.
but at the same time, I think Oz being a very solid player and playing the dirty player roster, I
Mm,
think it's one of those that um, if he gets his dirty player game on and starts getting removals, that's gonna be a difficult game. Um, Undead being a slower team especially compared to Norse, and if they don't get the damage, if the Undead don't get the get ahead on the violence game, it can be really difficult.
yeah, we have Pitpad once again in the chat saying Ostgad Sock Tactics versus Vibe Dead. I'm not sure if he was having a stroke while writing that or whether that's an inside joke of some kind, but Pitpad, you need to do better on the English. That was horrible to read. But yeah,
Oz got sucky tactics against Undead,
yeah,
I
yeah.
guess.
Like it like I special tactics.
Special. Okay.
so quick. No, for me, like the soy cook was like psychic, and I was like, at what point did he like pull out what are the fucking uh the sort of ball that psychics look into to see the future or whatever. Like
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, so but again, I haven't played against, like, I mean, I actually have now played against the new Norse roster a couple of times because I joined Fumble very recently and I got
Okay.
matched up like a couple of times. So I now have a little bit more of an understanding of like the new Norse roster than I
Right.
had previously. But yeah, haven't don't really have a solid grasp on like what each matchup for North look like. So I just always think that, like, oh yeah, Shambling Undead is probably gonna win the Brawl War. But yeah, I did not consider the whole, like, just how much faster overall the North is. But
But but still I think Rat Ogre managed to get the win
mm,
here. I think it was a game of two solid coaches, I
mm,
mean, going at it, so I could see it going either way. Yeah, and as Pidpat said, it's
mm,
not easy for the Norse, especially if you don't start to get some removals. I think they need something.
yeah,
They need it, but and Oz's real roster is built for the damage, so as is mine. But it's hard to say with the results, that because the foul casualties don't show on the
mm,
like end result, that hard to say how much damage Oz got in here there, because the official cast was just a 3-2
yeah,
for Rat Ogre.
yeah.
But but yeah, it's one of those really big mismatches matches. The Meliscus against Sex Machine.
Mm,
Sex Machine is one of our newer coaches.
mm,
He's been training his ass off, and he's definitely he earned his spot on the team. But I think against Meliscus, who's a veteran, older Swedish captain and stuff like that, I think is one of those matches that we would probably gonna end up losing. And I don't remember what was the Kaju's end result, but I
I
think
believe he lost to.
yeah, that much I know. No, but I don't know, like on the whole the tournament. I think it's one of those matches that if the vampires start rolling and removing the ball, it's gonna be just
Yeah.
over for the lizard men. And as I said, I we the In for the Pains roster is a Fowly Orcs.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of fouling orcs, just because the team it's built for like grinding and
Yeah.
like slow progress and stuff like that. And it kind of showed in that matchup. I got to go on offense. I removed their blitzer on turn one with a foul, but lost my bribe on turn one on the
Mm-mm.
first foul. At least I didn't lose my fouler, but
Mm-mm.
he had bribe left. I lost my bribe. It was like, okay, it's not gonna be an easy game. Even though I got the one removal, but I had to turn the game. Like I think In for the Pain liked the fouling a bit too much,
Mm.
and I got with the Amazon movement. I did a six or like touchdown on turn 6, and he got 3 turns. And even though I almost got the defense, like I did not, if with a one go for it more, I probably would have ended his. He wouldn't have gotten his touchdown, and that's one of those things that's gonna haunt me for a very long time.
Mm-mm.
But I had to. I made the safe turnover, but with that little bit of risk, I probably would have had the win.
Mm.
But I got the draw in the end, which I guess I have to be happy against, considering that I had some like 6, or I don't remember, but 6 or 7 Amazon line like players in the end of the game, so
Hmm.
it wasn't easy game.
Pitpad said that Caillou's overall record is 0-4-2.
Yeah, it's not what you're looking for as a captain. You would like to do a bit better, but it's sometimes it happens. I think this was Kaju's first Euro Bowl, if I'm not wrong.
At least I believe it was his first captaincy. I'm not sure if it's ever.
I have to check because I think he was supposed to go to Malta, but I think he
Ah,
had to.
yep. Pitpad has confirmed that yes, this was in fact his first.
Yeah, and even though it's one of those things that it always shows that your first Euro Bowl is gonna be a bit rough,
Hmm.
and but so considering that 0-4-2 is not as bad as let's say like for a veteran, but he's a really good player. I've only played against him once and I managed to got a draw, but he's a good coach anyway.
Uh,
And
yeah.
and again, Nama with against
What
a
else?
really good Wood Elf. I've lost against Niaga. It's not. He's a good player. Um, Bruto going the Skaven against Skaven. It can be fireworks probably,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
but it ended only with 2-2, and
Yeah,
and
when most games are like, yeah, it's like a 1-1 draw or a 2-1 win, and then or even like a 2-0 win is a solid win, and then yeah, the this match went 2-2, but then you
yeah,
look at it has two Skaven teams in it. Yeah, that's actually pretty low. Like
yeah,
it's yeah.
exactly. And Jonas is I think is one of those consistent coaches that, especially on vampires,
Hmm.
it's if vampires work, they work, and I think after the game when I walked up to Jeho and he was just holding his head like okay, like I think I don't know the details about it, but I just how because I know Jeho, I think there was some vampire shenanigans
Hmm.
that happened in that game. Um, and vampires, like I checked there hasn't been like the Mike the Magician who does all the statistics for the Blood Bowl, the whole community hasn't had like a breakdown of the races or something like that. I would really love to see which races did best and worst, but I think I did my very quick search
Hmm.
functions and stuff like that. But I think vampires did really like better than other races. Like so I think at the moment it's just one of those teams that surprised the meta.
Hmm.
And Jonas, I know he's one of those coaches who's a good player and is a very active coach. So combine that, magic can happen.
I'm not sure exactly how much the like vampires surprised the meta because I at least to me it felt like the uh many top tier coaches like spoke fairly highly of vampires as a team, like that they were gonna be one of the strong teams going in. It's just the case that like unlike some of the other strong teams, the vampires do have uh like a self destruct condition built into them, and
Yeah, yeah.
like obviously it doesn't like depending on like the build you can mitigate that, but it is always going to be like a shadow on the wall just waiting for the wrong moment to but I also think that like vampires in the like in the skill packet that that this particular tournament had they had a very good sort of um like they could get a lot out of the skill packet here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think for example, Amazon is one
Mm,
of those as well. They were too low tiered. They're
yeah.
next time they're gonna be higher tiered.
Yeah.
Is they're just too good.
Yeah. But
But
yeah.
yeah, in the end, yeah, we do not get the win against Sweden, and it's one of those. Even though the Malta felt bad, at least after the Sweden matchup, it, it's rough to say, but we were happy that okay, now it's over. We really would have wanted to win here.
Mm,
Really would. I think I've checked the results. I think we would have been third with tiebreakers against Denmark. We got the win on Denmark, and we had better individual scores, and that's one of those things that is gonna nod us. And but still, it was the best that we got this time. But
um.
but still, the draw against Sweden wasn't as bad as the loss against Poland.
Yeah. No. No. Not as like no bitter taste in.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, not as bitter. There's.
And
It's always bitter when you don't win against Sweden.
yeah, and
Um.
even though we love to kid with the Swedes, but the
mm,
guys are they're lovely guys, and we go to their team matchup every year in a small town called Sala, and
mm.
they're just a really good bunch of guys, and really love to play against them and love to play with them. It's but they're still see Sweden.
But yeah,
But yeah,
looking at the final placements for EuroBowl, again France takes home the win. Team USA not far behind at 10 points,
right.
which is again like this is EuroBowl. How is Team USA at second? Come on, guys, this is a little bit awkward. I
Yep.
mean, at least they didn't win it. That would have been even more awkward. But
Yeah. We had to learn the USA chant in the prize ceremony, so that was kind of rough.
yeah.
But yeah,
Um, technically speaking, Team USA now qualifies for hosting rights. I think to EuroBowl, but I have a feeling that that's not exactly how that's gonna work.
I
Um,
think it's in the EuroBowl charter or the rules that
yeah, that
it
it
has to
can't.
be in Europe.
Yeah, it cannot go outside Europe, which
Yeah,
is a good thing. A good thing that it's in there. Um,
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, Denmark, Sweden, third and fourth, along with Poland and Malta, all at 8 points. Just differing slightly in their positioning. Um, from what I've heard, like from what I've talked to, or that like the sort of like as much as it feels bitter not to win against Sweden for us.
Hmm.
Sweden, I felt that at least some people in the Swedish team have felt somewhat bitter about the fact that they weren't higher than Denmark on the positions. So
Yeah,
it's like that's a and like from having talked to Triple Skull, like I feel that he has at least some slight bitterness probably at only being it like making it third. Like was
yeah.
so like bitterness all around for the Nordics. I don't have not heard anything about Norway, but Norwegian people are always very depicted as happy people. So hopefully they just have no bitterness, I guess. Um.
Yeah. And one of those things that we joked around
mm,
about, like after the win against Denmark, we were all already joking about making a meme with the "You're Welcome" song with the Finnish shirt singing "You're Welcome" to the other countries. So
yeah.
I think we stole the win, or at least the second place from Denmark.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess they should have won against us.
Guess they should have just done that. Yeah. Um.
Yeah,
But but yeah. England and Italy 6 points at the end of 6 rounds is
yeah,
um is not placements where many would have put them like previously.
right.
It's and I mean by the props to Australia by the way as well in that like Australia seemed to be struggling like just like glancing at the sort of like table position. They seem to start out struggling, but they managed to pull it in and make it to that, like, at least the 6 points. So props to
Yeah.
them. Unfortunately, Bulgaria being the bottommost team is probably one of those of like situations where, like, they're a newcomer team, and like they don't did but potentially didn't know the meta that they were going in. Maybe they, like, again, like, national metas, like, was something that we discussed with the Greek team in particular, and like national meta can shape a lot of what you bring into EuroBowl, and it might just not work in EuroBowl what works back in like the home country. So could be a
Yeah.
case of that. Um,
And even the play style, even though
mm,
the like rosters might
mm,
be competitive, but their play style or their risk taking
mm,
or reliance on dice might not be something that you can pull off in Euroball.
yeah, and I mean, it is also one of those just like, it is one of those things where the like especially if they don't have a lot of experience, like, as a team in a team
Mm.
tournament environment, like, that can also easily cause issues, in the sense of, like, when it would be better for some certain coaches to go for, like, the draw rather than try to go for the win. Because, like, I feel as a Blood Bowl coach, generally, at least for me, I am very geared towards, like, thinking of how am I going to win this game, not how am I going to draw this. And
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
can, like, with experience of team tournaments, and like that can, like, you need to kind of know when to rein in that impulse to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But
Because Blood Bowl can turn around on a dime
yeah,
just if you start doing something silly.
yeah. But yeah, no, it's overall, again, having uh like this sort of the top half is a little bit, it's a little bit jumbled, shall we say. Like Malta, Finland, Switzerland are not exactly the teams that most people would go to and go like, yeah, they're probably gonna do well.
I think Switzerland is considered one
Mm,
of those better teams, especially their best coaches are so good. But for example, Spain, Germany, England, Italy, they cannot be happy with their positions here. It's just it's one of those things that they're probably gonna look on upon like their teams and like what went wrong, what is it individual coaches, is it
mm,
being unlucky or whatever happened, they had probably will think long and hard about that. But I think like one of those things that I'll take out of this result is the like it's the it's tightening at the top. The like there's not so big differences in skill level. For example, England were
mm,
the veterans. They had the guys who've been there for ages,
mm,
and but now everyone has people that have played for 15 years, even at Eurobowl level, and
mm,
it's starting to show. For the Nordics are all like, if we don't like, Norway was the only Nordic country that they didn't get to top 10, um, and it's really good to see some change at the top, and there's something for the other countries as well to try to get after. And I think um, I don't know the European teams that well. Like for example, France, Italy,
mm,
Spain, they get to play against each other all
mm,
the time because they're close by.
mm,
But we get to play against them in the bigger like tournaments. But I think it's one of those things that they probably have to get used to, that people aren't like pushovers anymore.
mm,
They might be favored against us, but we have the chance to win, and I think that shows now.
um hello, good evening to Lady Lafay. Glad to have you here. We are currently discussing the Eurobowl tournament, sort of end result from the Finnish perspective. And Pitpad says France, then a lot of teams would be his personal ranking.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, it does sound like that certainly. That France might at least at the moment, like with the roster that they brought, might have that sort of definitive edge against everyone else. But a definitive edge is no guarantee of victory, like especially in a
In
game
Blood
like
Bowl.
Blood Bowl. Uh,
And just if you I don't follow every like the top level coaches, but
mm,
for example, I follow a few of the French coaches,
mm,
and they are just crazy active. They go to so many big events like
mm,
locally and abroad,
mm,
and it's one of those things that it shows. You don't get the jitters in the games you get. You probably are used to playing on less sleep, or you know yourself that you get the sleep that you need. They're not gonna blow their game um, with some um, rooftop pool parties probably.
mm.
I don't know. Maybe they do. Then they're just more solid. But I don't.
Maybe they just leave the rooftop pool parties until when they've won the tournament.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen some videos of them showering people with champagne from the rooftop. So they've had their parties afterwards at
Hmm.
least.
But yeah, Pitpat says if France picks their best team, they should be favorites every year. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean
I I
re-
feel exactly the same.
yeah, like repetition and experience is the very core of any sort of competitive game that you can. Uh, wasn't the Finnish team advised by Justitium?
That is it lies and slander. It's the Danish team. I think Justikim was playing on their team last
Mm,
time when they won, and now he was their coach,
mm, mm.
non-playing coach,
Yeah,
like captain or something, whatever. But
yeah, fair enough. Lies and slander.
yeah, we only have beer.
Yeah, but and like let's be real. Like his coaching is more on the moral side in the sense of like he's a shining beacon of hope and goodness and cheer to everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's doing some really new meta moves. He
Mm.
went with Lizardman, having only 5 Saurus players and a guard on instead of guard and Crocs, he had grab. and just and I'm 100% sure
Mm.
it's just because he was drunk when he was filling in the roster. It's one of those. Yeah, so that's beer for you.
Yeah. Bitfast says that's a distraction for everyone else. Like, listen, I'm just saying that, like, it's not every game where disturbing presence like affects things, but there are those games
Yeah,
where it will make a big difference.
I've seen people break playing beer just because it is he can be obnoxious. It's just he's he's great when he's on your team.
There
Yeah,
was a chance I could have faced Beer in the last round in the Open. Not sure if I could have coped with that. It's
exactly.
uh, yeah.
Um,
Especially like if you face him round one, that's probably the best time to face him because
yep.
like at that point he's not yet in the bear mindset. After that
Yeah.
point, it's like a wild roulette of like how exactly he does.
Yeah, I'm not one to glorify drinking alcohol, but apparently he drank around 10, 11 beers during the last game, and it's just
Oh.
it's one of those things that I couldn't manage that amount. Yeah,
I was 2-3 at the time. I did get to win the last game though, so there's that. Well, I'm glad to hear Pitpad that you can be satisfied with that, or at least you don't feel too bad about it. But with that, I think we can move on to essentially the final part of this interview of like, so are there any changes or any sort of lessons that you learned from this experience? Something like you mentioned that like your like the sort of like the team captain's call, or the essentially like how the team communicates with it, so like it ended up like backfiring somewhat. But I
Hmm.
don't it didn't seem like a thing that like that you can change, in the sense of like it's not a thing that you should change because it happened, right?
It's it's one of those things that if you don't have a non-playing coach who can communicate, who can
Mm.
follow the games,
Mm-mm.
there's not a perfect system to follow. That
Yeah.
should you take the risk? Should you play safe?
Yeah.
Until you have a non-playing coach, it's really hard to pull off correctly, and there are going to be mistakes.
Mm.
Um, and we at the moment we don't have that,
Mm.
and maybe in the future, but hard to say. But if we just compare our results to other teams, the thing that stands out is if, for example, the touchdowns that we I think we got more touchdowns done against us than the other league top teams. Malta is a difference as well,
Yeah.
but it's one of those things that stand out.
Yeah.
And for example, we're good at getting our touchdowns in, but
Yeah.
we're not as good as we should be at stopping them.
Yeah.
There is, at least I got 3 one-turners done against me,
Mm.
which kind of hurts, but still, it doesn't explain that number still.
Yeah. Yeah, if
And
like if we just like take a look at like France and USA, like again, like France is only 4 touchdowns behind like the touchdowns scored that Finland did, but there are
mhm,
10 like touchdowns lesser in the against column, and then you look at Team USA, which is like at the same of only 39 touchdowns against, but then they
yeah,
played like they seem to have been playing a like that very conservative Blood Bowl with only 48 scored as well.
yeah,
So
and they were playing our slower teams as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
But I think that was a thing that we have to improve upon.
mm,
So, like, I think because that's down to your minute, like, really small decisions that,
mm,
okay, they don't get the one turner, two turner, three turner. Um, we get the removal that we need in order to stop something or whatever it is. But there is like room for improvement here. So, and I don't have the answer of how we are going to tackle that yet, but I think we have to, as a team, we have to think about that.
mm, mm. All right.
Yeah.
Any
Casualties you can't control as
yeah,
much, but touchdowns you can
yeah,
most of the time.
yeah. Any particular sort of like team that like either performed above expectations or below expectations, like just
Um,
as a team pick.
Individual coaches or
As
like races.
the races, but also individual coaches. Like obviously, we don't want to nag on anybody for if they had a poor performance, but like,
Um, I think I think we played very good rosters.
mm,
I feel that we were like really top there. Like our race picks, compared to our coaches were like top there, like a top tier in that. The only questionable or like the thing that I might change is dwarves,
mm, mm,
especially in this meta.
mm,
They're not bad. They're not bad,
no,
but I think there might be better.
mm,
But just given our coaches, I think that was the best choice for us.
yeah,
Like it is with many guys, but I think our rosters, when I compared ours to others, I think we had better rosters. Mm, a lot of the vampire players had mighty blow on a blitzer,
yeah, yeah,
and I got to face that, and I did not like it at all
mm,
with getting blitzed with mighty blow every turn with Amazons.
yeah,
But still, I think our vampire roster was better than that. But still, it's hard to say. But our coaches, I think the real letdown in our coaches, the only one that I can blame is myself.
mm, mm,
I did the minimum which is 2-2-2.
Yeah.
You can kind of live with a neutral result. But Sex Machine was our newer coach, and the fact that he did as well as he did shows that how prepared he was. It was his first EuroBowl. He's been to a few like overseas, or like he's been
In,
to Denmark, and I
yeah.
think in Spain he's been to World Cup and such things like that. But he hasn't competed on this level yet,
Mm.
and still he did really good. And you win some, you lose some, but I think, as I said, I'm the one who has to do better.
Mm. But yeah, Pitpat did bring up a couple of good points in that. Like, obviously, like in when talking about removals, like KOs are not recorded at all. Like, so
Yeah,
like, it is also one like, and they can still very drastically change the face of the game just because it is still a removal, even if it has a chance of put. Um, uh, Pitbat also prefers either Frenzy or Strip Ball on the Vampire Blitzers rather
yeah,
than Mighty Blow, and like there's a lot like there's a lot to be said about like the Vampire Blitzers specific. Like I think that the throwers and the catchers have a
yeah,
like they've been kind of figured out. Like there's a couple of ways you can go about them, but like they've been kind of figured out on what skills you pick on them. But the Blitzers are where the differences are probably gonna be.
yeah.
We also have Bibinut. Hello all. Until Cornwall is recognized, these results don't count.
Well, I can say the same about Åland, Ahvenanmaa,
I
like so.
yeah.
So go back to Cornwall and free our non-militarized zone. We're
Yeah.
gonna we're gonna have our Åland team with Beer as a captain.
I mean, yeah. No, I'm like I'm kind of morbidly curious, like just what exactly that team would look like. But
You just have to go to 2012. That's a Finnish Blood Bowls team. Everyone's seen it already.
hmm. All
Yep.
right. Um. But yeah, no, I obviously like with the like next Euro Bowl, like the skill packet is probably going to change. The tiers
Yeah.
of teams are going to change, so there's like no sort of way of like predicting like what exactly is going to be like a strong team with those things. But
Yeah.
um, scoring everyone in 2-2. Well, yeah, but they're all Danes anyway, so it's not like
Yeah.
they'd just be enrolled into into
No one
Finnish.
would even understand them.
Um, but So, any sort of final closing thoughts, reflections? I mean, obviously, like we need to. At this point, we need to sort of like you need to vow that you're going to beat Sweden the next time, or we're gonna have to take you to like the sacrificial stone in the woods because
Yeah.
like it's just not we can't let this stand.
Yeah. We're gonna there's gonna be a huge team championship, or actually Swedish championship in Sala in February and next year. So we're gonna definitely gonna go and win the Swedish championship again.
Mm, mm,
So that's in the books already.
yeah.
And but yeah, next time we will have our bigger Bluetooth speakers, so everyone can hear Denglidarin. So I
Mm-mm.
think that's the major change for the next year.
Yeah.
Um, I'm in the lucky position that I've been chosen as the captain next year. So
Mm,
we'll start our building up our next team pretty much in 2 weeks when we have our next tournament. So
mm-mm.
it's not a long time to choose the next team, and
No.
that we're so it's 5-6 months until we have to lock our squad.
Yeah. And as you said, like obviously the French team, like in 6 months they can have like so much Blood Bowl played, but in Finland, with like distances between like centers of civilization compared to the woods, um,
Yeah,
are you going to show yourself at tournaments? Unless I maybe is the answer to that. Pitpad has been poking me to go to the Swedish national championship as well. So, but like I can make no promises because I have potentially quite life-changing things happening in January to February. So can't yet account for that, but
Yeah. But don't worry, Pit Better. If those changes work out so that we have our losses in Finland still in the future, we're gonna drag him into our tournaments and probably into Sweden next time. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like,
No worries.
yeah, like they already managed to, like, after I have refused to play on Fumble for I don't know how many years since I've known of the existence of Fumble, and now suddenly I found myself like joining, like, last moment joining the Finnish league on Fumble. So like that's the start of it. That's how they get you in the hooks,
Yeah.
and we'll see where they drag me from there. But
And next you're playing against Beer, and
I mean,
that's how it goes.
now you're just like making me not want to do this. But it's
It's a rite of passage.
yeah, I
It's one of
figured
those
as
things.
much. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but with that, I think we've babbled on enough. Thank you everybody for don't scare him away. Yeah. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching. I hope everybody enjoyed. Thank you once again, Tonalt, for joining me here. It was a pleasure having you. And
No worries.
thank you for making the time to be here. Um, but yeah, I don't know if this is going to be the only one of these that we're going to do. We'll see if there is any interest from any other teams. But this was one that I felt that I just had to get in here. So,
Great, great.
but yeah.
One thing
Mm,
that I could suggest for especially the older more traditional Blood Bowl countries
mm,
that at least I'm interested in how they pick their EuroBowl teams
mm,
is one
mm,
of those things that it's part of the things that you don't see as much,
mm,
but it's I at least for well I'm biased. I'm a captain myself, so I have to think about these things.
mm.
But it's an interesting because I know that it varies so much between other countries.
Yeah.
So that's if there's opportunity to talk about that with other captains.
Mm. And especially, like, again, like, it's probably one of those things that we're gonna, like, it would be covered in the, like, what's in for the team in the future. Like,
Yeah.
it sounds like to me that the Finnish sort of method of determining who gets into the team is not going to be changing for the next Euro Bowl, because, like, well, the system seems to be working just fine considering the, like, where we found ourselves.
Mhm.
And so, but it's definitely something that interests me as well, like, especially after, like, the Welsh team interview, where they sort of went into quite a bit of detail on how they determine, like, who gets to be on the team.
Okay.
So it is one of those things that it definitely is interesting, but it has a big impact. Like, it can have a really big impact on the team, but it's not something that you, like, as you said, it's not obvious. It's not something you often see because it happens in the background, sort of prior to the, like, far prior to potentially to the tournament.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, with that, I think we're gonna sign off on here. And as I said, thank you everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you'll be here for the next one if there's gonna be a next one, or if you just enjoy watching me play Blood Bowl 3 with Imperial Nobility. Feel free to come on by and have a look. Um, but thank you again for being here, Tonalt. And as I always say, good day, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good morning, whatever happens to be the time of day for you. Have a good one.